Hello, everyone. Before we start our presentation for today, we just have a few announcements. This HIV 2020 online session is recorded. After this session, the recording will be made available on the HIV 2020 online website and social media platforms in the translated languages. This session is live streamed on Facebook via the HIV 2020 page. All HIV 2020 online sessions are offered in English, French, Portuguese, Russian, and Spanish. Please click on the interpretation button on the lower part of your screen to access interpretation. If you do not hear your interpreter clearly, click on the mute original audio in the interpretation menu. For panelists and speakers, please speak slowly and clearly in order for the interpreters to interpret your words clearly. For attendees, please note that you do not have the microphone or video functions enabled. Attendees may ask questions or provide comments by raising hand through the raise hand button. Your microphone will only be unmuted if you are identified to speak by the moderator. Please use the Q&A option to raise questions to the panelists or the chat option to comment. Do note that nuisance behaviors will not be tolerated, and you may be removed permanently from all HIV 2020 online sessions without notice. And lastly, please note that depending on the volume of attendees and questions, all those who raise hands may not be able to speak, and all questions in the Q&A chat box may not be answered. Thank you for listening. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are and whatever you are doing, welcome to this HIV 2020 online session entitled Young People Are Leading the Way. My name is Darren Paul Katigbak. I'm the current Deputy Chair of Y Plus Global, and I will be your moderator for today's session. I am speaking to you all from The Hague, Netherlands. So young people have been at the forefront of leading the HIV response at different various levels. There are several innovative approaches and best practices which have been implemented and shown to have a great impact, which ranges from advocacy, improved service delivery, resource mobilization, and improving the quality of life of young persons living with HIV. Beyond the usual way of implementation, there are many interventions led by young people in response to the COVID-19 situation, specifically targeting young persons living with HIV. So for today's session, we will look at different youth-led innovative approaches and best practices from national, regional, and global networks or from different youth-led organizations across the world. So before we proceed with the next part of the presentation, I will just give you a quick overview of what's going to happen in the next 2 hours. So for today's session, it is divided into 4 parts. The first one, we will have a session on, in order to set the scene, we will have a presentation regarding the 4 youth consortium's best practices. And then the second part, we will have a very interactive session on meaningful youth engagement using the Mentimeter. And then the third part, which is the most important part of today's session, we will have three different panels with three different thematic areas. And they will be talking about on how they respond to the evolving needs of young people during the COVID-19 in terms of service delivery, youth leadership, and advocacy. And the last part of our today's session will be a question and answer portion. So before I start, I just would like to say welcome to everyone, and also welcome to our to those people who are watching us through the Facebook live stream. Hello, hi. So without further ado, let's start with the next part of our session. So our next part, we will be talking about the different good practices and innovative approaches of the 4Youth Consortium. And our speaker will be coming from Youth Rise. His name is Florian. He is the project manager in charge of creating an e-learning platform. May I suggest, Florian, you start with introducing more of yourself before you start with your presentation. The floor is yours. Florian? Sorry, Florian, can you show yourself? Yeah, I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Can I ask the help of the technical team?
Darren, Florian hasn't joined us.
Oh, okay. My apologies. Apparently, Florian is not present at the moment. Maybe we can proceed with the second part of the session. Okay. We will just get back to you, Florian, once you're available. So for the next part of today's session, we will have a very innovative activity on meaningful youth engagement using the Mentimeter. I think this is very important. As you all know, we are celebrating the International Youth Day tomorrow, and with a theme on youth engagement for global action. So this important presentation is going to be amazing. May we have Anna and Gabriel? You may now have the floor.
Hello.
Hi, Anna. You may now start.
Hi. So,
Hello.
hi everyone. I'm trusting that you're all well and healthy and safe. So what I'll do is, while we're also waiting for Gabriela, we'll try and share the link to the Mentimeter that we're going to be using. So allow me a few minutes just to copy it and paste it.
Maybe Anna, while we are waiting for your presentation, maybe you can introduce yourself a little more to our audience. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so yes. So my name is Anna Sango. I'm currently the National Coordinator for Zimbabwe Young Positives, which is a network for young people living with HIV in Zimbabwe. And mainly our work is focused around advocacy and also mentorship and leadership development, as well as uh, standing up for the rights of young people living with HIV between the ages of 18 and 30. And our area of operation has been in Zimbabwe. And we've really had a lot of milestones in terms of our work in engaging with our policymakers, as well as driving change within our communities. And I'm happy to be here.
Hello, Anna. We have shared the code in the chat box. Please let me know if you can access to it.
Okay, I am. All right. I don't see the link yet. Could you, Secretariat, could you please? Okay, noted. Thank you. So I'm going to share the screen now. Okay. So I'm sharing the screen now. I hope everyone has gone on to tap on the, okay. Okay. So I'll also go on and read the questions as well for the sake for interpretation. Okay, I'm sharing it now again. Mhm. Is the screen now on?
We cannot see your screen, Anna. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Can
working now.
everyone see the screen now? All right. Okay. All right. So people can join in through the password that was shared. I'm going to try and reload it. So the quiz is reloading so that we can start. Okay. I think we're having a bit of a technical glitch here. Okay, so while this is reloading, I'm just going to read out the questions that I have here while we're waiting for it to reload because it's taking a bit longer. Oh, yes. Okay. Okay. All right. Moderator.
Yes, Anna,
Okay.
I'm here.
Oh yes. All right. So I think we're back on. Okay. So I'm just going to read out what the slide is showing. Okay. So so we have the login for the Mentimeter, which is you have to go to www.menti, that's MENTI.com, and then you will use this code 720694. So I hope everyone has logged on to Mentimeter. Okay, so the first question that I'm going to read out says, agree together to roles, responsibilities, and expectations among youth and other partners and stakeholders. So about 6 have said the principle is consistently and fully implemented. About 8 people said the principle is beginning to be implemented but not consistently, and there are challenges. And about 4 people have said there are few examples of this principle being implemented, but most work happens without it. And then about 3 people say the principle is implemented most of the time, but there are still gaps. And then 2 people say no examples of this principle are being achieved. So this was based on this principle, whether within our institutions or our engagements, there's a level of agreement to work together towards the roles and responsibilities and expectations among youth and other partners and stakeholders. Sorry, we're loading again. Okay. So support, the second question is, do you support young people's leadership by giving them decision-making roles in all stages of the project? Okay, so these are the results. In terms of supporting young people's leadership by giving them decision-making roles in all stages of the project, about 7 people agreed that the principle is beginning to be implemented, but not consistently, and there are challenges. And then about 7 people as well said the principle is implemented most of the time, but there are still gaps. And 6 people highlighted that the principle is consistent and fully implemented. And then 3 of the people have said a few examples of this principle is being implemented, but most work happens without it. And 2 people said no examples of this principle is being achieved. Okay, so we are moving on to the next question, which reads, do you regularly ask young people whether their views and ideas are being heard and how meaningful participation of young people can be improved? So the answers are either the principle is consistently and fully implemented, the principle is implemented most of the time, but there are still gaps, or the principle is beginning to be implemented, but not consistently, and there are challenges, or a few examples of the principle are being implemented, but most work happens without it, or there are no examples of this principle being achieved. So the question again is, do you regularly ask young people whether their views and ideas are being heard and how meaningful participation of young people can be improved?
Hannah,
Yes.
I think you can go ahead with the answers now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, so apologies for that screen. So we're moving on to, my screen just moved on to the next one. Identify opportunities and support young people to advocate for their issues and safely share their experience and knowledge as experts. So identify opportunities and support to young people to advocate for their issues and safely share their experience and knowledge as experts. 7 answered that the principle is beginning to be implemented. 6 answered that the principle is implemented, but most of the time there are still gaps. The second one, 2 people answered that a few examples of the principle are being implemented, but most work happens without it. And 1 person said no examples of the principle are being achieved. And 1 person also said the principle is consistently and fully implemented. Okay, build skills and knowledge of young people, including through mentorship, so they can confidently and effectively take part in both decision making. Okay, so 8 people said the principle is implemented most of the time, but there are still gaps. 11 said the principle is beginning to be implemented, but consistently, and there are challenges. And then 3 people say the principle is consistently and fully implemented. And 2 people said a few examples of the principle are being implemented, but most work happens without it. And no one spoke on examples of the principle are being achieved. Is there use of language that is understandable, respectful, and accessible to everyone? This includes providing translation. Is there use of language that is understandable, respectful, and accessible to everyone? This includes providing translation support. Okay, time's up. So 8 people agreed that the principle is consistently and fully implemented. 7 people agreed that the principle is implemented most of the time, but there are still gaps. 6 people agree that the principle is beginning to be implemented, but not consistently, and there are challenges. And 2 people said a few examples of this principle are being implemented, but most work happens without it. And no one said there are examples of this principle achieved. Okay. Do we give young people enough support and resources, financial or other, in a timely manner? And do not expect them to volunteer their time. Do we give young people enough support and resources, financial or other, and in a timely manner, do not expect them to volunteer their time? So 9 people agreed that a few examples of this principle are being implemented, but most work happens without it. 7 agreed that the principle is beginning to be implemented, but not consistently, and there are challenges. And 5 agreed that the principle is implemented most of the time, but there are still gaps. 2 agreed that the examples of this practice are being achieved, and 1 agreed that the principle is consistently and fully implemented. So do we value and respect the perspectives and views of young people? Is there a level of value and respect for the perspectives and views of young people? Time's up. So 13 people agreed that the principle is implemented most of the time. 9 people agreed that the principle is beginning to be implemented, but not consistently, and there are challenges. And 5 people agreed the principle is consistently and fully implemented. And 1 person agreed that the examples of this principle are being implemented, but most work happens without it. So next question is the support and consultation and feedback between young people and the communities they represent. Do we have support and consultation and feedback between young people and the communities that they represent? So 12 people agreed that the principle is beginning to be implemented, but not consistently, and there are challenges. 5 people agreed a few examples of this principle are being implemented, but most work happens without it. And 5 also agreed the principle is implemented, and most of the time there are still gaps. And then 3 agreed that the principle is consistently and fully implemented. And the next question is, do we trust young people to take responsibility and be accountable for program delivery? Do we trust young people to take responsibility and be accountable for program delivery? Okay, so the results show 10 agree that the principle is beginning to be implemented, but not consistently, and there are challenges. 9 agreed the principle is implemented most of the time, but there are still gaps. 8 agreed that there are few examples of this principle being implemented, but most work happens without it. And 2 agreed that the principle is consistently and fully implemented. Okay. So this is our leaderboard, and it seems Nemo is the #1 leader. And thank you so much for your participation and proactiveness within participating in the small exercise. So you won by 9,989 points. Congratulations. And then we have Croc, Mars, Ronald, Casper, Loveside, Homer, Sakura, Ribbit, E.T., Thank you so much, guys, for your participation. Thank you so much, guys, for your participation. Over to you, Darren.
Thank you, Anna, for facilitating that wonderful interactive session. For me, I think the most vivid thing that I remember in that session is like, most especially on the question on whether we value and respect young people's perspective. And we saw that, yes, we value it, but there are still gaps that we have to address. So I think it is also very important that we have to emphasize that young people are there and they have to be respected, and their views and perspective should also be respected. Thank you, Anna, and thank you for all the audience that have participated in that interactive session. So we will now proceed with the very most important part of our session, the thematic sessions on 3 different important areas. We will now proceed with the thematic area on service delivery. So young people have been at the forefront, not only delivering services the usual way, but in a very unique matter, which caters for the evolving needs of young people through their diversity. So in this particular panel, we have 3 amazing youth speakers hailing from 3 youth-led organizations. We have Francisco from Fundación Chile Positivo. And we also have Martha from the Uganda Network of Young People Living with HIV. And lastly, we have Fabian, from the National Network of Young People Living with HIV in Burundi. May I suggest, before you start your presentation, introduce more of yourself? And I would like also to remind you that you only have 5 to 6 minutes for your presentation, and the floor is now yours. Thank you. I think we can start with Francisco. Francisco?
Good morning.
Good morning, good afternoon.
So I guess I will be sharing my screen. I have a presentation that I sent to Gabriela or Tinashi, is there the name?
If you can share your screen, that would also be okay.
Oh.
Or maybe Gabriela. Gabriela, can you share?
I'm sharing the screen. I'm sharing the screen.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Francisco, if you can also show yourself to our audience, that would be amazing. Yeah, thank you. Amazing. No, the floor is yours.
Francisco, is this your presentation?
No, that's not my presentation.
Oh, what's the name of your organization?
But I can share it if you want.
Okay, if you have it there, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, just wait a second and I'll do it. Just a second, I'm loading the thing. All right, so can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can see it, Francisco.
Okay, just a second. All right, so good morning, everyone. I'm Francisco, and I was speaking on behalf of the Chile Positiva Foundation. So first of all, we are a nonprofit organization based in Chile, and the main things that we do is HIV prevention and awareness strategies. Here are some of the things that we do, but I'm going into details in the following slides. Some of you may know Chile is a very long country, it's 4,000 kilometers long, so it is very important to be present in different cities across the country. So we have regional teams in the cities of Antofagasta, La Serena, Santiago, Temuco, Puerto Montt, and Coyhaique. So during the slides, I will be talking about some of our best practices, which are health and educational fairs, HIV testing sites, educational workshops, and different trainings that we offer, and research. I will start with health and educational fairs. Education is something very important for our organization because it's the way we can help reducing stigma and educating people, of course. In these educational fairs that are usually organized by local governments or different organizations or scout events, for example, we provide information on sexuality, sexual rights, HIV, and other STI prevention strategies. We always try to give that emphasis on human rights and the sexual and reproductive rights. Everyone has the right to explore their sexuality. How we do this? And other fun activities. By fun activities, I mean, for example, putting a condom on a dildo, sometimes using your, but it's a very fun activity that has worked pretty fine. During these sessions, these educational fairs, we provide people with flyers, posters, such as the genderbread image, which is very educational about identity, attraction, sex expression, and other very important concepts. And we deliver people with exterior and interior condoms and lubricant. We also teach people that there are condoms for penises and condoms for vulvas. They're not female or male condoms, as some people may say. As many of the organizations that we'll be presenting here, I'm sure that most of them work with HIV testing sites. We work promoting and organizing different HIV testing sites all along Chile. We do that through rapid HIV tests in different regions of the country. We have teams working on that. And to do this, we work in alliance with different universities, schools, and local governments, such as municipalities or other governmental institutions, to bring HIV testing to young people aged 14 and above. Educational workshops. This is one of the most important pillars that we have in the organization. As I said before, we like to educate people about sexuality and HIV. So in order to do this, we use different educational tools such as Kahoot and Menti, which are very engaging, especially for young people. They're all on their phones participating, and it's super fun. And they usually win a prize at the end of these games, where we can give them a bag full of condoms, information, lubricant, and all of these things related to sexuality and HIV prevention, STIs, etc. And here I wrote the importance of pleasure. We like telling people that they have the right to explore their sexuality and to have sex. But because people want to have pleasure, but if they want to do it, first they need to be informed about all of the things involved in the process, you know. Training courses, this is also related to what I've just said. Here we have two different examples of the training courses that we offer. The first one is a paid course for professionals or students related to different fields such as healthcare, education, social sciences, and well, anyone can join. Anyone who's interested in the subjects of sexual rights, HIV, and reproductive rights can participate in this course. This particular one is about, this particular one was the winter course. It was very successful. And the second one is a training program for young people living with HIV, which is a collaboration with the Global Plus Alliance. And it is made to empower people living with HIV all along the country. Research. This is another pillar of our organization. We like to collaborate with the policymakers and the government by giving them enough information about the quality of life of people living with HIV in Chile. So here we have different surveys that we've been working in this year. The first one is about mental health. The second one is about quality of life of people living with HIV. And the third one is PrEP. PrEP has been implemented has been just implemented in Chile. So we want to know how it's working. Some of the activities that we've done this year, well, you know, COVID has made everything so difficult, and we've been trying to keep working on the internet. So we participated in the Head Hackathon, which was a very fun activity. And as I can say, we haven't been able to be out in the street doing many activities, but that's not an excuse to deliver condoms. For example, here in the city of Temuco in the south, We provided condoms and information, lubricants, and stuff like that. As I said before, we are working almost 100% online because of the COVID pandemic. So here I can mention some of the projects we are currently working on. We are developing some guides and manuals, such as peer education and support for people living with HIV. The idea of this is presenting people some material that is written in an easy language, that it's written by people living with HIV for people living with HIV, because this information is usually not available in hospitals or anywhere. We are working on a nutritional care guide for people living with HIV. This is very important. And also, some of our team is working in orientation for psychotherapy and peer support groups for people living with HIV. Also, the team of Antofagasta is working in a comprehensive sex education course for teens. And also, we are planning a project for UNAIDS, the Latin and Caribbean part of UNAIDS, which is a tool for informing any violations to human rights related to having. So we want to monitor that, and yeah, that's it. So here you have the different social media where you can find us, and I guess that's all. So thank you very much for watching.
Thank you, Francisco. Can we now proceed with Martha from the Uganda Network of People Living with HIV? Martha, you may now have the floor. I think Gabriela will be sharing, the PowerPoint on UNAYPA. Okay, thank you.
Kindly unmute me.
Yeah, Martha, you're already unmuted.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, hola, bonjour, guten morgen to everyone who is watching us. I hope you're keeping well and keeping safe during this COVID pandemic time. My name is Martha Clara Nakato, and I work with Uganda Network of Young People Living with HIV as the advocacy officer. I am a passionate community health educator and also a sexual reproductive health national trainer. And just a brief about our Uganda Network of Young People Living with HIV. We are a national network that provides leadership and coordination and ensures the meaningful engagement of our young people living with HIV in Uganda. And much of our programs are aligning health education, linkage to services, mentorship for young people living with HIV, provision of services, advocacy. But all in all, we work in partnership with different partners, different coalitions to create a legal and a social enabling environment for young people living with HIV, in that they are able to have a productive life. So my presentation will be around a model that we initiated during the time of COVID-19. It's important to note that at the start of the COVID-19 situation, many of the different entities, but importantly also the young people, a lot of challenges came with the COVID-19 pandemic. And one of it is the access to services. So as a network that works for young people living with HIV, but with young people living with HIV, we had a discussion with our peers and we thought of a way, how can we improve the access to services for the young people that we serve, but the overall clients. And our peers that we work with came out with a model. Is there a way the organization would support us to make sure that maybe we deliver the drugs to the doorsteps of the different peers, but also the clients that are looking out for these services? And some of that services that were really on high demand is the art treatment, condoms, TB drugs. So this is a model that our peers initiated. It is led by them and driven by them. And just to share with you how the model works is our peers support health facilities to deliver services to the people in the communities. So basically what they do, a peer walks to a health center, picks up a service, or even links someone to a service that they need. And much of our engagements are that we run a Facebook page on Twitter. So a lot of young people reach out through those social platforms and they're like, oh, I need a service. I've heard that you are a network for young people living with HIV. You can support me to get a service. So we link them to the nearby facilities, and also our peers get the drugs and they deliver them to their doorsteps. And one thing to note is that about this model is the presence of the different networks that we have, the regional networks. If you look at the Iganga network of young people living with HIV in the Eastern region, the Mbale network of young people living with HIV, but also the overall presence of the ambassadors that we have, they have enabled us be able to deliver these services to the different peers. So through the COVID time, a success story that I can really share, our peers have been using a model of a means of transportation of riding bicycles, riding motorcycles, and even getting off their way to be more selfless and walk, to deliver these services to the people. And I am proud to say that since March, when COVID began, we've been able to deliver over 7,000 art drugs to different people. And on that, we've made over 1,000 art referrals. And these were to the people who were locked down in different communities. They were locked down because there was a lockdown that was imposed by the government. So you would find that someone who stays far away and is then locked out in another place would not be able to drive back to access the services. But because they reached out to us, we were able to provide this service. And we've also been able to deliver over 409,000 condoms, inclusive of the 11,000 female condoms. And just to note, we also realized that there was a problem of a challenge that rose with the mental well-being of the different young people. So we chose to come out with a model that we called the UNIPA's Psychosocial and Counseling Club. So our peers have been able to provide online services to people, but also we've worked in partnership with the ministry and other entities that provide psychosocial support and counseling services to link them to other young people who are having cases of intensive depression, who are having a lot of thoughts, with even some who are thinking about suicide because they could not live through the moment. And I am glad to say that we've been able to provide all these services. So overall, online and in-person psychosocial supports, we've reached out to over 1,000 people, maybe as the numbers through the slides. And this is just a slide of an in-person for our peers visiting the different peers and delivering to them the drugs. You could see that is a home and the peers are directly delivering these services. Next slide, please. Okay, and this is also one of our peers delivering our condoms to clients as demanded, but to their convenience. How convenient do you want a service to be delivered out to you? Next slide, please. Okay, so around last month, we really, from the visibility of the model, but also highlighting other challenges that the peers were receiving, Some of them were working at that time. We really got a lot of partners who came on board to support us. And I am glad to say that UN Women came on board to support us through one of a program that would increase the access of services. And also AIDS Fund came on board. They were able to purchase bicycles for our peers, but also we equipped them with other gears to be able to safely deliver these services, but importantly, keep safe from COVID-19. And one major lesson that we've learned from this model is we recognize that other peers play a big role in covering that gap of service delivery, because we all know that during the COVID time, a lot of facilities were not working. Not all people were allowed in the facility, most of the health workers. So our peers were bridging that gap. But it was also important to learn that there is that comfortability and convenience that the peers who were demanding for services and having them brought to their doorsteps felt. And this is something that we are looking at as an entity, to have it as a model that is sustainable and keep it up to ensure that young people living with HIV have access to life treatment drugs at any time when they need it and when they can have it. And through also this model, the stigma has really been decreased, because peers find it so easy to reach out to a fellow peer or have my drugs delivered to me. I am not able to go to a facility because I am shy to be there. So these are some of the key lessons. So I shared about the challenges that we had faced initially at the start, and I am glad to note that at least we've worked in partnerships and we've been able to address some of these challenges. And one of that is that there are longer distances to health facilities. Many of our health facilities are inaccessible. And then still many of the health facilities, you would reach there and the drugs are not there. So our peers would usually face delays in delivering these services to the peers. And also the issue of mobilizing a peer has reached out and there is limited airtime. But important to note is that at the start of this model, when we did not have the support, the financial support that we had from the partners, or even the technical support, our peers were doing it willingly, selflessly, because they believe in a cause that there is nothing for them without them. So they had to lead the way. And as we talk about our peers leading the way, this is what it means. Peers getting out of their comfort zone and being able to do the things for their fellow peers without expecting anything. So allow me to acknowledge still UN Women, AIDS Fund and the SRH Alliance, but to also recognize the government of Uganda and all other facilities, all the partners who have worked throughout in this journey to ensure that the young people are able to deliver these services. For God and my country, thank you so much. And remember to stay at home, take your medication, and don't let yourself catch COVID-19. Thank you, and a blessed morning, evening.
Thank you, Martha, for that excellent presentation. Kudos to your organization for doing an amazing job. Can we have the last presenter for this amazing panel? Can we have Fabian? Fabian, the floor is yours. Thank you, Martha.
Thank you.
Allô, vous m'écoutez?
Yes, we can hear you, Fabian. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
On peut partager ma présentation, s'il vous plaît.
Can you share my screen, please?
Yeah, give me 1 minute. I'm gonna put your presentation. Thank you.
Fabian, if you can show yourself, that would be great.
Thank you. Je m'appelle Fabien Di Curio.
I am Fabian Di Curivo, legal representative of the network of young people living with HIV/AIDS. I am very pleased to be here with you. and be able to share our experiences. We are an organization that is working with young people living with HIV. It was created in 2004, and that is when we had the national authorization, and since then we have been working, not particularly with young people. In advocacy and providing services for health for young people. First, introduction. As I was telling you, we were created. We were created in 2004, but our health center was created in 2014. It is in 2014 that our center for young people and adolescents or teenagers has been created. This is directed for and by young people. Back, please. The previous one.
Alors, depuis 2014, le centre a offert plus de 255 000 services de jeunes de...
We have served over 55,000 young people ages from 10 to 24. The center is located in Bujumbura. And this is a space where young people can have access to services on HIV and SRHR.
N'importe quel jeune dans n'importe quel service. C'est des services de VIH, de santé sexuelle de la reproduction.
This center is providing,
de la santé mentale,
in addition to HIV services, mental health services, and other health services for key populations.
Nous utilisons certaines prédictions, mais aussi l'Internet.
We do some training, and we organize very attractive activities for all these young people, as you can see on the screen. What are the results? We can improve their lives because normally they feel that they not accepted. So we make them feel free to express themselves. We have a place where they can express themselves freely.
L'art qui attire les jeunes. On peut venir
Normally, young people are always attracted
des artistes, le dialogue,
to art. So
peut venir faire sur ces
we organize
et on peut
art-related activities
des informations par rapport au VIH ou par rapport
that will enable them to be well informed on HIV.
dans les moments habituels, mais on peut changer leur cité
That enables us to change their mindset.
différent et dans un environnement surprise. Aussi, on travaille avec les jeunes populations.
We work
La stigmatisation est plus importante
to fight discrimination and stigma.
qui protège le VIH. L'année passée, on travaillait avec les parlementaires. Pour
We work with mentors
cette loi, il y a des articles qui discriminent et qui stigmatisent.
because there are some laws and articles of the law that are discriminating for people living with HIV.
C'est pour le moment, on attend pour que cette loi soit dans.
We are working
C'est Laurent Jupis qui a pris
with the legislators in order to have a law passed soon
prise en charge
to
spécialement pour les jeunes et adolescents vivant avec le VIH. Donc, Laurent Jupis
we have a testing center
des médicaments, des antiviraux. Donc, jeunes peuvent trouver des médicaments.
that enable us to provide them with
Il y a des infirmiers qui travaillent
and
pour
drugs.
donner
We have the nurses
ces traitements. Donc, au moment où
that apply the treatment.
centre convivial qui est là, il y a aussi des cliniques qui offrent des services auprès des
They are welcome
et
in this center,
centres de prise en charge spéciale pour les jeunes et adolescents vivant avec le VIH. Donc,
and this staff is well equipped and trained in order to take care of the young people.
L'autorisation
Government has given us the authorization
en janvier a été conclue récemment
to run the center.
vers 2019. Pour le moment, RNG
Since 2019.
qui est dirigé et géré par l'EN qui peut offrir des traitements antirétroviraux. Suivant. Donc, c'était pour dire merci. La photo que vous voyez, c'est
I wanted to say thank you, and this picture
de 2019. On a
was taken in 2019
des informations nationales où il y avait une rencontre de 2200 jeunes de tout le pays
in a national day
qui vivent avec le VIH, qui
that we celebrated the young people living with HIV.
qui ont atteint avec des thèmes très différents et aussi de les motiver à parler de leur état sérologique, mais aussi avec
We have tried to work with them so they can express freely that they live with HIV.
le VIH, mais il y a très jeunes et si cette opportunité de se rencontrer entre
It doesn't matter if you are so young.
la force de vivre
What is important is the force that you have to keep on living.
Merci beaucoup, Fabian. Thank you for that presentation. I just would like to highlight or maybe summarize the three important things that Fabian, Francisco, and Martha talked about. I mean, I am very impressed about Martha's organization doing in terms of door-to-door delivery services. I think it's phenomenal. I would like to actually go in Uganda and praise those young people that are biking, using their motorcycle to deliver that treatment and support services that young people need. And also, I also would like to highlight the importance of having a tailor-fit training program, which has been emphasized by Francisco. They have this HIV winter course and a very specific advocacy training program for young person living with HIV. And also, lastly, for Fabian's organization in Burundi, I think the importance of having a youth center that act as a safe space for young people to interact and grow. I think it's just phenomenal. I just would like to congratulate. To congratulate the presenters. We're now proceeding to the second panel. Our second panel will be talking about youth leadership. So in the past few years, leadership has never been static. It has been evolving, and young people are continuously supporting country networks and youth-led organizations to develop their leadership capabilities through different initiatives. So for this particular panel, we have four amazing speakers and I know that they have been very passionate in their work. We have Vanessa and Ika from Youth Lead, and we have Leo Christian from YPeer. And we have Eilish from Youth Rise, and we also have Miguel from the Regional Network of Positive Youth of Latin America and Caribbean. I will now be giving the floor. But first, I would like to remind people that you only have 5 to 6 minutes for your presentation. We are running a little bit late, and you now have the floor. We can start with Vanessa and Ika from Youth Lead.
Sorry. Not. So I didn't realize that I'm still on mute. So, yeah, hello everyone. My name is Ika. I'm with Youth Lead as an advocacy officer. So, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Ika. Nice and properly, yes.
So, yeah. So for those of you who are new to us, so Youth Lead is Asia Pacific largest network of Yankee population with more than 50 focal points across 19 countries who work to empower and advocate for the needs of YKP. So our main bodies of work include YKP grant programs to YKP or youth-led organization, and then sexual, reproductive health and rights advocacy, and then lobbying, capacity development and mentoring, and strategic partnership, also the research and study. So during this time, I would like to present with you about the development of the YKP toolkit or guidance. So next slide. Yeah, why was there a need for a YKP toolkit? So in this region, there is many toolkit existing on addressing the needs of key population. For example, people who use drugs, sex worker, men who have sex with men, and the others, key population, they have their own toolkit or guidance to do their programming. But then there is still lack of guidance to comprehensive reprogramming for the young key population needs. So that from that background, we think that, and we believe that we need to build a YKP guidance or toolkit to help the YKP-led organization do their reprogramming in the country level. And also we want to promote sharing, learning, reflection, and critical thinking in the development of comprehensive regional and national program of YKPs. Yeah, next slide. So, I'm involving in this toolkit, developing in the first start from the very beginning until the finish. So, yeah, this is a complicated process, but it's worth it for us in YouthLead. So the process, we start with a very small support and funding. It just starts with 10K USD and support from UNFPA to do the regional consultation. So the first regional consultation, it's aimed to get the first data from the YKP and also the stakeholder, and also we want to collect the first-hand experience of YKP in Asia Pacific and also to consult with our members and on the validating the existing guidance of YKP.
Couldn't see me.
And then the second process was the regional survey, because we aware that we still have we don't have enough data, enough voice from YKP. So we did a regional survey so this regional survey was aimed to collect more data from our country partners and also the focal point. And then from the regional survey, we did a in-country research, because we in this region, Asia Pacific region, English language is not first language. So we did three countries, like the big countries such as Vietnam, Indonesia, and also Myanmar, so that we have a large number of our focal points, and also we want to gain more data in that country. So we engage the youth consultant to do the in-country research, and after that we do the systematic literature review. So the consultant team undertook a review of existing literature on young key population in the Asia Pacific region, focusing on publication by UN agency, international NGO, and also YKP-led network and organization. So, after that, the last part is promising practice. So, this is a format was developed by the collection of case study highlighting promising practice from our country partner. So this case study were collected through the YouthLead network on a focus on programs run by and for YKP in the region. So from this process, we realized that we have a successful process to do the resource mobilization and also doing the data validity. Next slide. So in our toolkit, we do have 9 components. So the first one is anti-discrimination, violence, and stigma against the YKP. The second one is comprehensive sexuality education. The third one, accountability, social mobilization service, including HIV prevention, treatment, and care for YKP. Safety and security, policy and legal advocacy, international norm setting, and also community involvement. Next. So after we have the first draft of the toolkit, we thought that we did piloting training in the regional level. So yeah, we did it with the support from RCF and also the Global Fund through the SKPA program in the region. So we did in Bali last October 2019. Okay, I think Vanessa, if you're here, you can speak.
Yep, I'm here.
Over to you.
Sorry, technical difficulties. Can we please move to the slide beforehand, if that's okay? Yeah, thank you so much. So as Ika was saying, this is when we piloted the YKP guidance on a back-to-back training with one of our other standard manuals called the New Gen Leadership Training in October last year. So the YKP guidance actually took place after our New Gen Leadership Training because it aided in further developing strategies to improve HIV services, as this guidance was designed to train and guide young people in developing proposals related to programming for YKPs in the Asia Pacific. So the pilot training resulted in 2 different types of plans and strategies. First was for a stronger and more stable YKP network throughout the region. This is because the advocacy for HIV service delivery is not effective without a stable network, as it is also a source of sustainability. Can we move to the next slide, please?
Sorry, Vanessa, can you speak? Can you speak a little slow?
No problem. Sorry. Okay, so for each country plan that was drawn up by the participants in this training, youth would co-finance these plans throughout the Robert Carr Fund and other existing funding sources that we had. The second type of strategy focused more on HIV service improvement and varied from country to country depending on how mature the YKP existing network is. But overall, it was the exchange of ideas between countries and experienced YKP leaders who supported newer countries to develop strategic plans which were really beneficial to them. So the newer countries that attended this training and also were identified as countries that the Global Fund wanted to focus on was Papua New Guinea and Timor-Leste. So these 2 countries at that time did not currently have an established YKP network. So the participants from both of these countries brought back their work plans to their respective countries, and they held their own YKP guidance trainings, and they echoed the format from the training in October, where the YKP guidance training followed our New Gen Leadership Training. So the representatives who attended the pilot training assisted in co-facilitating these sessions with the Youth Lead team. The trainings in both countries produced 2 tangible outputs, the first being the formation of the first YKP networks in their countries, which aims at tackling key HIV and SRHR issues affecting YKP and to advocate for YKP participation at the national, regional, and global level. And also for resource mobilization. And second, being the identification of major bottlenecks to access HIV services by YKP and some practical solutions to these barriers. Can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you. So some key highlights of this process was it was completely led by young people, which includes the technical consultations, mobilization of resources, a global panel of experts to review the guidance for quality assurance, and the pilot and country rollouts, as previously mentioned. And although we recognize that there may be many regional guidelines out there, we had collaborated with UN agencies on this guidance. And the main difference was that after completing the process from consultation...
Sorry, this is Rachel. Could you please stop touching the microphone because it's muting the sound out? Please remember to speak slowly. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah. That's okay. From consultations to quality assurance to design and piloting, many toolkits are just left on the shelf, whereas this one we use almost immediately and began the implementation process. So the objectives of this guideline were to influence YKP programming at the country level, and although we are still in the early stages of meeting these objectives, we are hopeful and committed to bringing about these changes. Next slide, please. Thank you. So after successful piloting and implementation of the YKP guidance, Youth Lead hoped to not only implement it in more countries across the Asia Pacific, but we had also envisioned for this guidance to go online as an interactive platform accessible to YKP. So this platform would allow YKP to filter through the components, as Ika just mentioned, of the guidance and easily find the information that they need. However, once we have the resources and the time in the near future, this is definitely a next step that Youth Lead would like to achieve with this YKP guidance. And that's pretty much for Youth Lead on this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa and Ika. That's a very excellent presentation. Can we move now to Miguel from the Regional Network of Positive Youth of Latin America and Caribbean? Miguel, you now have the floor.
Gracias, Darren. Buenos días, buenas tardes, noches para las personas que nos están
Thank you,
viendo.
Darren. Good morning, good evening for everybody. I'm going to speak about, first I would like to mention what is the regional rate of positive for young people from Latin America and the Caribbean. We are the only network that we are here in Latin America, and basically our work is based on all the things that are related with this advocacy, communication, and specifically with all key populations of youth that live with HIV. So this is between ages 15 and 38 and 30 years old for all the region of Latin America and the Caribbean. So I'm the regional coordinator of this network. Please, next slide. So let me start by speaking on how youth in Latin America had been organized in order to face those challenges that we are living in the region. One of the main challenges that we are facing in the last years, we might say that we were created since 2012, and one of the main things that we have developed is that we have created those mechanisms in order to create this advocacy that do not provide access to the job for youth living with HIV. As that's what we have seen in this region of Latin America and the Caribbean, mainly in some countries that it's really highlighted in Central America, for instance, and in some other countries of South America. Being young, being part of this youth population and living with HIV, sometimes they get fired. And for us, from this network, we have developed several mechanisms using several tools in some other countries where we can create this issue on this type of abuses. So these tools also have been expanded not only for having access to all the activities that we do, but we have also been able to do it through to create this transparency inbox with regards of demanding just because of discrimination. Let's say that what the most that we had received is that these trans people are not included, or they don't have this educative inclusion. So that's why we developed these mechanisms. What we have done with these tools is that we create this liaison with these key populations that are vulnerable in a certain way. We link them with lawyers and with these centers so they can escalate this situation and they can have contact with the decision-making processes or with the governments, depending on the case. So we can support them, so we can provide this service whoever has faced this discrimination. We also have these communication campaigns. Last year and still this year, we developed these campaigns having this support from the World Health Organizations, and we have this combined strategy. And in this strategy, we were able to speak about on how to reach young people. This job that we developed is really interesting. This was held in Mexico. We also run a pilot program for 3 other countries. And here we can identify 3 priority groups. In this case, we're speaking about youth people that are having an increase in the HIV infections in Latin America, and that we didn't understand exactly why was that. And we were able to identify a group. In this case, is this Entrones group. We started from the organization, from the World Health Organization, to recognize what's going on with youth, what's happening with them, why these new infections are focused mainly in youth people between 15 to 25 years old. So one of the things that we were able to identify and that in the region is not spoken about is the fact that there are youth that do not want to use condoms. And we're not doing anything for them. We're not doing anything for them who have this decision. So we're not understanding the concept of this pleasure within our own bodies. Also, the topic related with sex and drugs. We just want to reach them. We just want to reach them through the use of these recreational substances by telling them not to use them. So what we're just trying to do with this campaign is to have this combination prevention strategies, teaching them what are the strategies for prevention that are available for them, and not only setting with these male condoms, but telling that there are also some other barriers or some other tools that they can use, such as lobs. So in this case, we were able to replicate this strategy with some other countries, such as Venezuela and Nicaragua. Because of social, economical, and political situations, the purchase of condoms and lubricants has been a little bit complex. But based on the other strategies, we can train them. We can train these youth so they can learn exactly how to develop this anal feature. We were able also to measure the impact of this strategy. This was something really nice what we developed in these other countries, and we decided to implement it in some others, in 4 more countries. We have this strategy of advocacy, and we have implemented with countries such as Costa Rica and Honduras. Some organizations that provide condoms, ART, and food. And this is really interesting because we've been able to implement it in Central American countries where the access to food is complicated. It is not for everybody, and there are some social, economic, and political conditions that make it difficult to have access to health services and also to food services. So what we did is that we organized specific small groups, several to the condomobiles, where let's say that these are mobile units that allowed to provide these services, but people in Central America, they don't go and find the ARTs and the condoms. So the extra that we offered them was giving and providing them food. For them, this is a primary necessity. So by giving them food, we also provide them ARTs, and together we also give safety condom kits, condoms, lubricants, and more tools, either female or male condoms. What we did also, we are also developing in Costa Rica the use of the marketing within these applications. So we're using this Grindr paid publicity just to speak about this combined prevention therapy, just to tell youth that, well, if you are going to have sex, yes, you can do it, but if you are going to use also any other substance, let's identify which are the common substances used. This will be like the advices that we can give them, and these are the types of risk that they can face. So the idea is to have these strategies on harm reduction so they are accountable on the use of these practices. So we realize that through the use of these applications, it was easy for us. And finally, we saw also another topic that is this meaningful participation. We are demanding to have more spaces, to have these meaningful spaces where our voices don't want to be heard. So in Latin America, it happens that we as youth, there's a great influence of these approaches centered on adults. They are those adults that say, yes, let's listen to them, but let's not pay attention. So what we are saying is that, no, yes, you have to listen to us, and you need to take into account whatever we are saying, because we as youth are the ones who know exactly what is the situation that we are experiencing as young people. We know exactly what are the experiences that we are living as for the politics implemented. We know exactly what are the risk practices, we know exactly what are the sexual practices, and we know exactly what are all those activities that are left behind by other generations, just by thinking that we are not trained and we don't have the skills. So young people are not, they say that young people are not having this training in order to be part of this decision-making processes.
Tenemos también un tema importante que se está midiendo justamente acá en el.
Another important topic here in this meter is that we have important challenges that still in Latin America we haven't been able to move forward totally. On one hand, there's the lack of interest from the state. The state hasn't recognized the need to integrate within the educative system what it is mentioned as comprehensive sexual education. In some of the countries of Central and Latin America, they speak about these programs, but none of the countries speak about sexual relations, how to place properly condoms, and what are the other methods? What are the other barrier methods? They do not speak about female condoms, and they are only centered on male condoms. We also been able to identify that there's a lack of resources for all the things related with HIV, with all the things of policies. We have seen countries such in Mexico where there are not any type of grants, and where they develop all these prevention and social activities. They get rid of those programs. So nowadays, the state is not really showing a real and a truth commitment with regards of health and HIV. And something else that it's important is that the state is also not recognizing gender identity. There are plenty states that they don't speak about and that they don't recognize this gender ideology. So we're fighting against that, because at the end of the day, we find that there are some other movements and there are some other campaigns that they also try to sabotage all the things that are related with gender. We also have an issue of public policies in countries such as Chile and Argentina. There are public policies that need to be updated, and that still there are several processes that had just remained in the document, but they are not exercised, they are not practiced. All the theoretical and legal framework is developed, but it is not put into practice. So those are the issues that we are facing, those policies that were implemented 50, 20 years ago. And the reality of young people is that we are changing. We are young people that have some different needs. We're just telling them, with this, we can do it in a different way, but we're not taking into consideration. So in this sense, meaningful participation is really interesting, and it is important to consider what are the perspectives consider to include young people. So another important aspect with public policies is that there are some other countries that they are asking us to have this information consensus, because if we are not adults, we need to have the presence of an adult to have this consensus. Another important aspect is the fundamentalist movements, and in this sense, the gender identity, it's important, and some other groups such as Provida. And this is something that I would like to highlight, because youth in general, we who are working in this advocacy, all those key populations that are able to organize, we do that because we like it to do it, not because we're just receiving a payment for that. So as for the sustainability of this collaborative work, it's an important aspect for development of this network of youth people. Not only the implementation, but also the follow-up, because sometimes it happens that they just start, they have the initiative, and some of them, they need to work, they need to get money. So, and sometimes they just leave aside this work because they have to cover some other needs that nobody else is covering. So here we have these two red meters, and one is related with this 9990 cascade. And this is related with data transparency. It is important for us as young people how this cascade is being measured, how this 99 cascade is being measured, because sometimes some of them, they speak that they are close to this goal, but for us as young people, for people from Venezuela and Nicaragua, we can say that these countries, they are not giving any type of data. So as we can say, we cannot move forward if we are just leaving behind some others within this process. we have these three.
Miguel, sorry, can you wrap up your presentation and can you speak a little slow, please? Thank you. Thank you.
Claro, acá tenemos lo que son estos.
Yes, we have these two groups. This was a program developed by UNAIDS and the World Health Organization. At the end, they decided to have sex relations without any protection, and then we also have the fresquitos that they are just entering into their own sexuality, and they have sex with with older men, and there's a gap, an age gap. And we have also the cybernautas that they are just looking for information in the internet. And then we also have this topic of chemsex and youth that it's not being considered. Another important aspect is that is PrEP and PEP. They speak about PrEP and they speak about PEP also, but some of the great challenges is that in Latin America and in the region in general, they can create these policies for PrEP and PEP because we don't have them. There are some countries that they only have PEP for those who have been victims of violence, or specifically for women, and PrEP is not given in all the countries of Latin America. We speak about combined prevention, where they speak about, but they don't speak about, and they don't move forward in the States. Speaking about this I equals I, we are not recognizing what are these factors that are implemented within this undetectable. So we speak about this undetectable and untransmissible, but we don't speak about the lack of food and poverty and some other factors that are related, like drinking water and such. So finally, the topic that is related with the HIV cure. Youth in Latin America demand that to get the cure. So that will be that for all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. Can we now proceed with Leo Christian from YPeer?
Okay.
Leo Christian, you can now proceed with your presentation. May I remind you, just stick with only 5 minutes, please. Thank you. Leo Christian, you can now have the floor.
Hello, good evening and mabuhay. Warm greetings from the Philippines. Good morning, buenas tardes, buenas noches, and greetings of peace, and hope that you are safe in your respective places wherever you are right now. So I am Leo Lauzon. I am the president of Kabataan Sansidlangan Incorporated. It's a youth-led organization which is member of Youth Peer Education Network, or YPeer, here in the Philippines. So our organization is composed of young people coming from diverse background, and we celebrate that diversity. We are situated here in the eastern part of the Philippines, in Eastern Visayas. And as you may know, Eastern Visayas has been placed on the map because of our vulnerability. Back in 2013, a super typhoon devastated and brought havoc to the central part of the Philippines, and we were the ground zero for it. Well, aside from that, we are vulnerable to other natural and man-made disasters. And when we talk about the HIV situation in Eastern Visayas, we are identified as one of the emerging areas of concerns for the increasing number of HIV infection in the Philippines. So we ask ourselves, after facing these realities, what do we want to become, or what do we want to contribute? So therefore, being part of YPeer and as an organization, we envision ourselves to be the leading youth organization in Eastern Visayas, as well as making it as a mission to provide development opportunities that will empower the youth of Eastern Visayas to create positive change. And as part of our organizational objectives, our second objectives aims to secure a generation of young people free from gender-based violence, HIV/AIDS, poverty, and rare diseases through our strength, which is peer education. So as you may know, Eastern Visayas is one of the consistent top 10 poorest regions in our country. It is sad, but it's not something that we lament on. We see that for our region to become prosperous, there should be investment and opportunities for young people to develop. There should be adequate investment on education and work employment opportunities. There should be investment on health and well-being of young people. So in the context of HIV and AIDS and SRHR and our work with COVID-19, allow me first to introduce to you what we have been working on, what we have been banking on for the past years that we have been in existence. So we've been starting working with government and other platforms where we can create network and coalition. So we also provide opportunities that are inclusive to our members, especially for members of our LGBT and positive community. So as you may see, next slide after objectives, please. So our Chris Lee, who is one of our transgender woman member, has been actively participating with the National Anti-Poverty Commission Youth and Student Sector, representing the organization and our region. So we encourage that everyone member of the organization should have a niche or should have the opportunity to participate, because in development opportunities, by providing them to our members, we hone their skills, we build their confidence, we develop their knowledge, and we aim that they should share it to our fellow members and the young people of Region 8. Next slide, please. So we also provide opportunities for our member and young people to represent in international platform and stage, such as the Asian Ministerial Conference on DRR last 2018, wherein one of our member, Melboy Bulan, well articulated the importance of including SRHR in disaster risk reduction and management plans of our country and in the local government. And next slide, please. We also aim that aside from speaking in international and national platform, there's a continuous growth and development opportunities for our members. So some of our members are also Rising Star fellows of WeDo. So one of our women leader, Andrea, is also part of this distinguished program from WeDo. So we only do not stop from training or providing them opportunities within the organization, but we also explore, we also help them, we also mentor and coach them so that they could also find opportunities, other opportunities outside the organization, and also in return give back to the communities and also to the organization. So our mainly focus is providing these opportunities and also provide avenues and platforms for participation and representation. Again, we believe that youth have a voice and they can well articulate their needs, and we do recognize that it is when we are involved that we make ourselves heard, and we also provide the way for other young people to have their own path carved, and to have other opportunities for them as well. Next slide, please. So for HIV/AIDS, we've been working with various government organizations and also various non-government organizations. So I think what is important with my sharing is that while we aim to be the leading youth organization in the region, we see other organizations and youth organizations as partners, not as competition. We complement resources. We provide our own niche, and when we see that we cannot give those services, we use the network and the meaningful partnership and relationship that we have developed in referring young people for need services. Next slide, please. So we have been working with providing forums and platforms for young people to work together, like the Regional HIV Summit. Next slide, please. Also providing trainings and capacity building for young people through peer education, training of trainers, through HIV symposia in partnership with other sectors like Rotary and also state universities and colleges. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And we also partner with grant making body to complement our resources for training. So we are grateful to be recipient of Youth Team and Robin Carr's small grant for conducting peer education, training of trainers. Before that, we also link with organizations to conduct community-based screening because we felt that there's a need also to provide these services. But in the context of COVID-19, we see that mental health is an emerging concern. That's why we are thankful that we are recipient of a small grant coming from UNICEF and Positive Youth Development Network called Bulong, psychosocial support services for adolescent and young people affected by COVID-19 and Typhoon Ambo. Because we are now facing a double whammy. It's typhoon season in the Philippines, and we are the first entry point of typhoon. Every time it comes from the Pacific Ocean, and at the same time we had an ongoing pandemic, which is we are now number one in Southeast Asia, competing with Indonesia with the most number of cases, and we see this trend as emerging and alarming. However, we tried to innovate, so we continue to use platforms like technology, like Zoom and Skype and other platforms to provide information, to provide capacity building, to connect, to network, and also to engage with the government. So recently, we participated in the Sulong Pilipinas conversations, wherein we air out our concerns for young people, especially on sexual reproductive health and rights and HIV/AIDS. We continue the conversation and engagement with local government units, and we are thankful that they have been responding to various requests coming from their constituents. We have been receiving requests for transportation, for them to be checked up in the hospital for our brothers and sisters living with HIV, and also those who need ARVs, those who went home to Tacloban and Eastern Visayas, but really, they cannot access their... Sorry, and as a wrap up, Darren, sorry, I would like to thank our partners, YPR, the Department of Health, Regional Development Council, and also our mentors who provided us the way in becoming a leader right now, and also paying it forward to fellow young people here in Region 8 and in the Philippines. Thank you.
Thank you. Mabuhay ka, Leo. Mabuhay ka. Let's have the last presenter from this panel. Can we have Eilish? Eilish, can you just, I will only gonna give you like around 2 minutes. Please summarize your presentation. You now have the floor. You are muted.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Thank you very much. Should I share the screen myself or?
Yes, please. If you already have it there, yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Okay, I'll try to be quick as well. Sorry. No, so I'm Ailish Brennan. I'm the Executive Director of YouthRise. YouthRise are a network of young people who use drugs from all around the world, working in every region of the world. We currently have 20 different members working in 19 different countries. And we try to build the capacity of these young people who use drugs and other young key affected populations through access to resources, information, and different opportunities that weren't previously available. We also use the expertise of our members to help us in our work and to produce these tools and resources. In YouthRise, we work around this concept of full spectrum harm reduction. This incorporates all of the people who use drugs, all of the ways in which they use drugs, and all of the contexts surrounding their drug use. This aims to go sort of beyond the traditional forms of harm reduction and also include the different socioeconomic contexts surrounding a person's drug use, as well as the different factors, or as well as the different drugs that they might use in different contexts. So full spectrum harm reduction is based on the principles of social justice, public health, and human rights. And we aim to address these structural issues which impact a person's access to healthcare, housing, different things like that. For instance, in Berlin, where I live at the moment, or in Dublin, where I'm originally from, both of these cities have pretty severe housing crises at the moment. And this is obviously having an impact on the community of young people who use drugs, who are being forced to live in dangerous conditions, or to use their drugs in particularly unsafe circumstances, which heighten the risk. So in this instance, a really fantastic harm reduction initiative for harm caused by the use of drugs would be access to housing and stuff like that that would really reduce the harm there. Drug use is incredibly diverse and complex, as you can see here. I wouldn't try to understand it or read any of this, but I hope this gives you a sort of understanding of how massive the universe of drugs is, and as well how diverse the people who use drugs are within this. This doesn't even consider the diversity of people who use drugs, their membership of other young key affected populations, or anything like this. I'm going to just skip over this in the sake of time. It's important that we value young key affected populations and that we ensure that they're active and valued partners in the political process at all levels. And on top of that, they're active and valued participants in civil society and in development of harm reduction services. I think this is really significant, especially with the Mentimeter test that we did at the start, where a lot of this was touched on, and about how our organizations are really working to include young people and to ensure that they're valued above anything else. So yeah, I'll put it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ailish. Unfortunately, we still have 2 speakers, but we ran out of time. We do have Cedric from Y+ Global and also Paulina from Teenergizer. My apology if you will not be able to present anymore, but I just would like to emphasize that your presentation is important. And thank you, Ailish, for that quick overview of your programs and services in YouthRise. I'm going to wrap up the session. Again, I would like to say thank you to all our wonderful speakers. You have been amazing in the last 2 hours. And I commend your your courage and your amazing presentations. And I would like also to say my thank you to all the audience that we have, and also to those who are watching in Facebook live stream. Thank you. And I hope you enjoyed the last 2 hours of amazing presentations on youth leadership, advocacy, and improved service delivery, and also youth engagement for global platform. And I will end now this 2-hour session, and I'm hoping that you will still register for the upcoming sessions of the HIV 2020 online. We still have a plethora of amazing sessions in the coming days. And again, this is Darren Paul Katigbak, the current chair of the deputy chair of Y+ Global, signing off. Thank you and have a great day. Bye-bye.